Yeah. Cold air, bright flame, hit a crest when we enter. When the crest covers, circle tight, we remember. Power in the whispers, protection in the spell. Ancient in our bloodline, yeah, we know it well. Strong minds, strong hearts, every sigil intentional. Love keeps us guarded, magic multi-dimensional. We rise together, no throne, no lone caster. Sisters and brothers, every spell cast faster. Ice in the wind, but the bonds stay warm. Through shadow and storm, we transform. This ain't fear, this is faith in motion. When the crest covered, strength, love, devotion.
Blessed be Wintercrest. I am so excited over all the things that are going on. We have been working night and day to build up the Wintercrest Coven. There's a lot that's been going on, and magic has come a long ways since the days of Gerald Gardner. It's come a long ways. But I believe that we're at our most exciting times right now. And we've been working, I and my staff, been working diligently to build up the magical community. And I think there's something that's happening that's a bit new and a bit different, because the barriers and the borders that we have established in the magical community, they're falling down. And that's what Wintercrest is about. We want to tear those barriers down. We're destroying racism. We're destroying sexism. We're destroying crazy, nonsensical thinking for those that really want to hear. This idea that a witch is just a woman in total control of herself, which witches are in control of themselves, but witches can be men and women, and you cannot corral people to call themselves certain things. We're not bowing down to that shit. So we are establishing a place in Wintercrest where you can come and be what you are. You can call yourself what you choose to call yourself without anybody else having shit to say about it. If you're practicing magic, if you're wanting to do those things in your life that you've dreamed, Wintercrest can assist you in that. What we're doing is establishing the kind of community that will build you psychologically, build you spiritually, give you the tools needed, so no matter which way you go, you can be successful in what you're doing. Now, we're making some modifications to www.wintercrestcoven.com. And we invite you to join, and we're growing by the day. Joining the Coven is absolutely free, but there are 3 tiers in the Coven. And there is the first tier, is just the outer courts. Everybody can come. You can come to our school app. You can get spell work. You can talk with each other. You can advise each other. Then there's tier 2. And in tier 2, you can come to my live Zoom classes. We have them on the full moon and new moons. We have them with the wheel of the year. Okay, we have them on the equinoxes, the solstices. And we have them doing special times. There will be special classes called to enrich your magical education. In tier 2, you will also have time with me. You can spend 15 minutes with me with tarot readings, coaching, and counseling. And that's tier 2. And that costs $25 a month. Okay? It costs $25 a month to be in that tier. Then we have the VIP tier, which is tier 3. And that is $100 a month or more. Okay? And that you have unlimited access to me then. And you can spellcast with me. You can get as many tarot readings from me as possible as my schedule allows. So we're building this community up. And the reason we're doing this is because when I first came into the fullness of what I was magically, because I started out in the church, and it's fascinating. I was 7 years old when I became interested in God and Christ and things like that. And my grandmother had just died. She died of cancer. Well, she had cancer, but she died of a heart attack. And I just kind of put them together. You know, if it wasn't for the cancer, I don't think she would have had the heart attack. But she died. And when she died, I did not understand what was going on. So I was completely confused. Now, my grandmother was like my mom. Okay? I stayed with her. I spent most of my time with her. She fed me jelly sandwiches and cookies. I was a little fat kid. And I lived with my dad. So when she died, I had no clue of what happened. Now, I'm from California and she lived in Texas and I lived with her here. And so, you know, she would go back and visit her sister in Oakland and my aunts in Sacramento. And that would be the times I would have to spend with mom. But when she was here, I was with her. So when she had died, I asked them, where is my dad? And they first told me she was at the hospital to get better. So I believe that. And then after some time, I'm asking, where's my dad? Because she's gone for a long time. And they told me she went to stay with Jesus. She's gone to live with him. Now, I'm really concerned. Why did my grandmother choose to go stay with Jesus instead of being here taking care of me? I didn't get it. Now, I was born with a veil over my face. And I have the abilities of seeing spirits. I don't care if you believe it or not, but that's the truth. So I can see entities. And I didn't see her spirit for some time. So I didn't think, something was wrong. I thought Jesus was a human on the earth and she moved in with him. So I'm trying to figure out, where is this Jesus guy? And so people come and they talk to my mother. The Jehovah Witness came and they talked to my mom about, Jesus. And so I'm all in. I'm listening. Where does he live? How do I knock him out, get my grandmother loose from his house? Because he had to have kidnapped her. She would not leave her little boo bear, okay? She had to have been kidnapped. So I am trying to figure out, I'm planning my rescue mission. After some time, I found out that my dear died, okay? I wasn't that devastated about that because I knew she could come and visit. But that ignited my desire to know about these beings, God's angels, and who come get you when you transition from this bodily form into a more celestial form. So who are these beings? And this led me into church, where I heard them talking about things and I wanted to know more, and I had a hunger for all things spiritual. And so I got saved and I got baptized in February. It was cold. And in our church, we did not have hot water, okay? So it was snow on the ground. It was cold. The water was ice cold. I got baptized in ice cold water. I just kind of figured they're trying to make sure I don't go to hell because the water was cold, okay? So I started going to church, and then I started preaching at the age of 13. And I was licensed, a licensed minister in New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Longview, Texas, at the age of 13. Now, that church is not in existence no more. It went out of existence about 10 years ago, I believe. They totally wrecked that church, okay? In fact, every church that I ever was a member of or I ever pastored went out of existence. I think that was a telltale sign, all right? So now, I started preaching, and at 13, I also started evangelizing. At the age of 15, I pastored my first church, and I pastored series of church. They would send me to struggling churches because I had such a dynamic evangelistic ministry. However, when I left those places just went all the way down to the ground. But I traveled around and I preached to many, many thousands. At 14, 15 years old, I'm traveling, preaching I'm doing it, a lot in school and preaching. I'm doing revivals somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 45 weeks of the year, missing a lot of school, but at the same time teaching and spreading the gospel. I was a different kind of preacher, though, because I was a preacher that was a necromancer. Of course, they didn't want me telling people about that. The preachers at preacher meetings and stuff, no, don't talk about that. I was able to see the future. I had psychic abilities. I had telepathic abilities. And so I was a little different from the others. And when I read the Gospels, I didn't read them dogmatically. I saw them as Jesus himself being magical. It didn't disturb me that there were witches at our school. In fact, I had good fellowship with the witches at our school. I did not know that I was one. Okay, now, what happened in my early 20s, I got some degrees in theology, I got some degrees, certificates, got a lot of those things. But the Bible became too limited and it became too dogmatic. And so I got sick, and I began to read different books in this time of me not going out preaching and stuff. I was sick for a couple of years. And really what it was me going out there eating bad food. Diet was horrible. And I'll tell you all about that sometime. But I read everything from the Upanishads to the Vedic texts and just poured myself into spiritual understanding. But nothing really made sense to me. And there were so many contradictions in the Bible. So many theological problems there. And it didn't make sense to me. The only thing that did was magic and witchcraft. The very thing that most of my contemporaries were vilifying. But I knew in my heart, I knew in my soul that this was right. I had more in common with Harry Potter than I did with Matthew Henry, the noted 17th century theologian and commentator. And so as I began to pour myself more into the magical community, and I read everybody from Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley's works. I read Gerald Gardner's works, the fictional and the non-fictional, and I struggled to get through the fictional. And I read Buckland's work, and I read all of these things. But even that, it was interesting, it was good, but that didn't satisfy what was going on. Because in a way, it put up borders, okay? I'm Alexandrian, I'm Gardnerian, I'm this kind of Wiccan, I'm an eclectic solitaire. And so it put up these type of borders. And I said, okay, wait a minute. There are people that just want to do magic and they don't care about borders and they don't care about that. And then I ran into the concept of chaos magic. And that's the kind of magic I do. I believe belief is more important than tradition. Now, you don't have to agree with me to be part of Wintercrest Coven, but that's what I believed. I still believe that. Okay. So I began to move more in that arena, in that area, tearing down the barriers and all that. We don't want them. Everybody should be able to practice the way you want to practice. Now, if you're a Gardnerian, that's good. And I'm not saying that Gardnerians or Alexandrians have put up these denominations of magic. I am not saying that. Okay? I am saying, though, that there's some weak-minded people in a lot of these different factions that believe that their faction is better than everybody else's. And if you're not a third generational witch, then you are not the right kind. And if you went to this Wiccan theology school or if you study that system, that your magic is invalid. See, that shit sounds a lot like the church. And I don't think it has any place in magic. I think we should learn principles, how to get ourselves out of the way. Most of our work is shadow work. How to deal with ourselves so that we can have divine power flowing in us, wrapping in us, connecting with our own divinity. See, when we do the shadow work properly, we will realize we are divine. And we will realize this in the right way and not some crazy way. I completely disagree with Jim Carrey. I mean, Jim Carrey, I think he got some of the truth and then he kind of went crazy with it. Okay? Especially when he says, I'm trying to find the most meaningless thing to do. There's nothing else more meaningless than this. I think he misses the point. What an insult. I think every single thing we do is meaningful. I think everything we do is meaningful. From when we chant to when we drum to when we dance, it's all meaningful. Okay? We are divine, and there is but one. But we are different in our oneness. And we can have relationships that are meaningful and encounters and experiences that are meaningful. But we must dedicate ourselves to them. We got to work at it. We got to work with it. And we must understand the constructs and how it is put together. That's important to do. And that's what we're doing at Wintercrest. We're working diligently to build an economy within ourselves, to build a magical world, not just a dream world or a fictional world. What about having our own Diagon Alley? What about having our own magical institutions and not just, weird type magic, but magic where you can move things, magic where you can see things, magic where you can talk to things. I'm all about the woo too. I believe in the woo. And I guess that's kind of unique. It may not be unique because I am a chaos magician. I believe in all things. So I believe that all things are possible. And that's what we're doing here at Wintercrest. We're attempting to build an atmosphere that will aid you in your magical walk, give you support without judgment, and create things. Hopefully one day we can have a real magical hotel and real magical retreat centers and parks and things like that where the people go there and really study magic. One of the things that I really love is the Theosophy Center in Kansas. I've never visited. I must make a pilgrimage there. But that's an amazing thing to have that in Kansas here in America. And to visit the Buckland Museum and to support these things. And that's why we have those other two tiers. Support the work. We need your help. We need your financial support. We are doing our very best to make the magical world shine to where we can have our own restaurants and we can have our own hotels, where you can come somewhere and talk with other like minds and discuss different tenets of magic, or have your coven come through. Can you imagine having a hotel that when you check in, they got the witches' hats on and the robes, and the cauldron is in the hearth, and you got a bookstore with all of the magical books in it, and you and your coven can retreat or do conferences and build upon your magical things? You can bring your tarot cards there. You can bring all of the wonderful things there. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? And not nothing like cosplay, real magical practitioners. A world beside a world. A world within a world. Wouldn't that be amazing? And that's the things that we dream of here at Wintercrest. Once again, thank you for being with us, and we hope and sincerely desire that you help us and support us in all that we do. This is Paul Arafo. Until next time, everybody, blessed be.
Yeah. Cold air, bright flame, hit a crest when we enter. When the crest covers circle tight, we remember. Power in the whispers, protection in the spell. Etching in our bloodline, yeah, we know it well. Strong minds, strong hearts, every sigil intentional. Love keeps us guarded, magic multi-dimensional. We rise together, no throne, no lone caster. Sisters and brothers, every spell cast faster. Ice in the wind, but the bonds stay warm. Through shadow and storm, we transform. This ain't fear, this is faith in motion. When the crest covered, strength, love, devotion.